Today, my tip or series of tips is covering a topic that most people dread, and that is small talk. Yes, today we're going to dig deep. We're going to figure out how we can become good at small talk so that we can be the eloquent, confident communicators that we dream of being.
All eyes on me.
Hello, I'm Jane. The topic of small talk immediately breaks people into two camps. Those who are fine with it, they're good at it, they maybe even enjoy it, and those who loathe it. They don't understand the purpose of it, they don't like it, and very often they're not very good at it. Because, like most things in life, once we figure it out and we become good or at least better at it, we don't mind engaging it in a bit more. But if we loathe it and we want to avoid it, then we never take it on and we never improve that skill. Why does small talk even matter? Let's start with the purpose of it. Small talk matters because it is a verbal handshake. Since the beginning of time, people have greeted each other with non-verbal behaviors. Think of a handshake, a hug, a bow, a peck on the cheek. People do these things to say to the other person, I see you, I acknowledge you, I'm no threat, and I'm here for a social engagement. So those non-verbal behaviors signal we're ready to start, yes, communicating. Now, as people who are studying to become much more eloquent and effective communicators, we know that every relationship is started off by speaking. You can't have a relationship, you can't build a connection with someone if you're not prepared to speak. But trick is, a lot of the times, we have to go to situations, both socially and professionally, where we don't know those people. So we know we need to speak to them, but we don't know them, we've never met them, and this is where it derails. So the purpose of small talk is to start to build that connection. What we're looking to do is we're looking to create a bridge between you and the other person, and we're also sensing their mood and signaling our mood. We've all heard the old expression, you need to read the room. And that's when people are a bit tone deaf. They don't really fit into whatever the surroundings are around them. Small talk is that beautiful little key that when you start out with someone else, you can gauge where they are, and then you will signal where you are in this conversation. You'll know if the other person's feeling serious, jovial, playful, and how you're feeling. And that is the first, as I always say, plank in the bridge between you and someone else. So the purpose is there. Now, why does it matter? It matters because, as I said, social and professional, we are thrust into situations where we don't know people. This is part of life. So in your social life, it could simply be your partner's taking you to meet the rest of the family. You joined a new club and you're meeting a lot of people you've never met before. Or in business, you've joined a new business, or you're going to an offsite with your business people, but you'll be meeting people at that event whom you've never met before. So now we have this situation where we're forced to now talk to other people. We can't avoid small talk because in many, many cultures, not breaking the ice is regarded as very rude. Many cultures have quite strict roles of how you greet people. It'll often be 3 or 4 sentences back and forth, their version of small talk, before you can jump into a goal-driven discussion. So we need to make this light conversation so that we can then start to dig a bit deeper. Whether it's social or professional, the rules are the same. So it's in our best interest to become better at it. How are we going to go about doing that? The first thing I'm going to urge you is stop thinking about it that you are the one going into the situation who has to do all the talking. because that's the worst way to approach it. If you arrive at the event, the party, the meeting, or whatever it is, and you're saying to yourself, well, I've got to go out there and be all fascinating and interesting, and I'm going to have to do all the perfect speech, and it's going to be on my shoulders, well, you're going to make yourself rather stressed, I would imagine. So you tell yourself, I'm going in as the listener. My job is to tee everybody else up so that I can listen and they can fall into the speaking role. I'm the listener. I just have to put out little bits of crumbs that they will pick up and they will carry the conversation. That's what you need to say to yourself if you feel nervous going into these situations. You are simply going in as the listener. And remind yourself, you don't need to be fascinating and interesting. You just need to be fascinated and interested in them. So the focus is on the other person, not in your head. You're going to get to learn about these people. And this will start off as light conversation, but it will develop and grow into deeper conversations. What's very, very important at this point is body language. Your body language and the other people's body language. So when you're about to go into one of these meetings, events, or parties, and you've told yourself, I'm the listener, I'm going to actively listen, and I'm going to put the burden of speaking on them, if you perceive it as a burden, maybe the gift of speaking on them. I want you to think about who are you going to approach, because you've walked in alone. There are other people who are on their own. So what is your approach? What is your strategy? Because if you don't have a strategy, I guarantee you will walk in there and run to the bathroom or take out your phone and pretend you're very, very busy on your phone with something important. That's not how you build relationships. So when you get into this event, this party, this room, or whatever, take a pause at the door. Take a moment and look around and see who is open for social engagement. So the group of three over in the corner with their arms around each other, roaring over some joke, yeah, I wouldn't join them. They got their own thing going on. It's going to be way too stressful. The person over here with their nose buried in the phone or trying to pretend, or maybe they're on a phone call conversation or texting, don't interrupt them either, because they're sending a clear signal they're busy doing something else. And also, don't be that person, because then you're never going to make this event work for you. So you're looking around for the person who's doing what I call just neutral behavior. Right? They might be standing at the buffet or the bar counter, they're looking at the stuff to eat, might be the person on their own and they're looking at a big poster or a banner on the board for why we're all there, or it could just be the person who's standing gazing out the window or looking at the gardens or whatever. That's the person you're going to have in mind to go and find fascinating. Then what you want to do is look at your body behavior and their nonverbal behavior. So your body language needs to be open and ready for social engagement. That means eyes up, good eye contact, not walking and looking at a phone, relax shoulders and have it open in front of you. Don't walk in with your arms crossed or clutching a folder or a program or something like that. If you walk in with a plate of food, put the plate of food down so that you look, all right, I'm ready for business, I'm open for business. Look at them as well. If they are standing with their arms folded, looking out at the garden, that's maybe a bit harder. You might need to have to tap someone on the shoulder and you're not going to want to do that. Also look at their feet. If their feet are pointing at the door, chances are they're ready to run. They're not comfortable there at all. So you're going to go for the person who's got the neutral body behavior, as I said, looking at the buffet table, reading the banner on the wall, looking out at the garden, whatever. Now you've got to have a series of questions to ask them. Why questions? Because we as humans are programmed to respond to questions. It's really hard to someone ask you a question and just not answer. We feel obliged, we feel obligated to respond. So we're going to go in with a question which throws the ball into the other person's court and gets them speaking. Because remember, you're the listener. You want to do a little bit of speaking and let them do more speaking. This is in the early days when you're getting your feet underneath you. So let's pick the guy at the buffet table. So we go up and we've got to ask a question about our neutral surroundings, okay? Neutral surroundings and making observations about neutral surroundings are very easy because you're all there, you're both there, and you're in the same thing. You're looking at the same situation. So you walk up, the person's looking at all the food, and you could make a statement like, there are so many choices here. Have you managed to narrow it down yet? Or I see you've grabbed the salmon. How is it? Right? So you've made a statement. Now you've asked a question. In fact, you're asking their opinion. People love giving their opinions. This person will now respond, right? They're going to come back to you with something, and that's going to get the conversation going. That's the one kind of question, is the surroundings. The other kind of question is current events, current circumstances. Nothing political, nothing that's going to be contentious. You don't want to touch that. But you can talk about something that you know would have been a shared experience with them. So the person looking out at the window, right? You could go up to them and say, my goodness, the rain on the way here was so bad. Did you manage to get underground parking? Because otherwise, it's going to be crazy. That type of thing. They will then respond to that. Yes, they might just say, no, I didn't get underground parking. But you have asked a question that leads to a bit more than that. They will then elaborate and explain, did they get underground parking? It wasn't raining when they left the office, or whatever it is. So now we're talking about something that's external. Much easier than asking the person directly about themselves, So what do? That's the worst question to ask. The person just feels all eyes on them and can feel intimidated. Asking about the weather, it's fine. It's easy. The third one that you can do, and this you need to judge, I think it works better in social situations and business situations, but it can go both ways, and that is compliments. People love being acknowledged and receiving a compliment. We all do. So in a business setting, you go to a business event and you want to go and speak to this person. You've decided they've got the neutral body behavior, they're open, they're ready for engagement, they're on their own. So if you knew something about them, you could go up and say, I heard you talking at the meeting 2 weeks ago. Your presentation really was helpful to me, right? There's a compliment. The person will respond to that. Yes, in a social situation, you could compliment people's external garments, what they're wearing, but you need to judge that. But people do like hearing about that as well. So if you went up to someone and said, I really love your jacket, I can never find one for this shoulder season, did you buy yours this year? Or, where did you get that? That can open a conversation as well. So compliments work, but choose when and where you're going to do them. Just make sure you avoid closed questions. And those are the questions that are blatantly a yes or a no. Have you been to this off-site before? Yes. Okay, that's not going to lead anywhere. Now, when you're in these conversations, I want you to be super observant, hyper observant of what's going around you and what the other person is saying, and you really need to pick up on little details. So say you go to a family barbecue party social event with your family group, and you go in there and there are people you haven't met before, and you walk in on your own and you don't know, your family hasn't arrived yet, you want to go and speak to this person. Pay attention to little details, and small things can be the clues. So the clues are like somebody's wearing a sweatshirt with a sports team on it, right? So you could go up to that person and say, oh, hi, I see you support top 10 Tigers team. And then they would respond, yes, I do. You could say, oh, have you been to any of the games in person, right? So now we've got a bit of a back and forth. And then once they answer about yes, they've been to the game in person or not, you can let them run for it a bit. Be a good listener and pay attention to what they're saying, right? Because this is the point where you're going to start looking for what I call open doors. Open doors are when people are talking and they mention something in the overarching response that you think, that touched a nerve, or I felt a bit of an energy shift there, or that's interesting, they included that in the conversation. That is something you can then build on. So let's think, for example, you're at the barbecue, the person's over there, you've not met them before, your family hasn't arrived or the friend hasn't arrived, and you see they've got the sports logo. So you go up, I see you sport Top 10 Tigers, have you ever been to one of their games? The person might turn around and say, no, I don't support Top 10 Tigers. In fact, this is not even my sweatshirt. It's my friends, it's my partners, it's my sisters. I just grabbed it when I ran out the door because I was cold. So no, I don't support them. Right. So this is an open door. You could just say, oh, okay, well, that's good, you got the sweatshirt, and walk off. But that's not building the relationship. So the open door is, they don't support sports, or they don't support that team. So the question could be, oh, so when your friend, partner, sister, whatever is supporting the team, what are you doing? What is your sports hobby? Do you cook? Do you sew? Do you climb mountains? Whatever it is, that's opening the doors to it. So be observant for those open doors. Now as you're moving through and you're getting a bit better at these initial conversations, remember to also pay attention to the things people tell you that you can just file away in your mind. And people will seed that conversation with all kinds of things. So you could be speaking to someone about the terrible rain, and they might say, the rain was absolutely awful. Yes, when I left my office, and I was really worried because, I'm rebuilding this car at the moment and it's sitting on the driveway and I'm so concerned about it. Okay, so we were talking about the rain and the weather, and you can go back and be like, yes, the rain and the weather was terrible when I left the office. But you file away, hey, that person's rebuilding a car and they're working it on their driveway. So in the next conversation or later on in the evening or whatever, that's something you can build on. If you see them 2 weeks later or at the next offsite or whatever, now you've got an opening. Now you can go up and say, hey, how's the car rebuild going? Have you progressed? Is it on the road? So being an efficient and effective communicator means we need to listen to all these clues. We need to pick up on all these open doors, because that is the way that we can move forward and build these connections with people. And the strong connections is what builds to relationships. So whether it's social or whether it's business, this matters. Small talk is a big deal. So take all these tips, put them into practice, and I guarantee you'll feel that difference. Now, how are we going to practice this? We're going to practice this by challenging yourself to speak to strangers, and not in a weird, bizarre way, but people who you cross paths with, that you can exchange 1 or 2 sentences over and above just hello, good morning, thank you, and those usual social niceties. So if you're walking to the station, you're walking to your bus, you're walking around the block, whatever it is, you're out in your garden, and someone walks past with a dog, and you see this person, they go on past with the dog a lot of times, and you're usually like, hi, good morning, whatever. Take it one step further. You've got the dog. The dog is an open door. So you could challenge yourself and say, my goodness, your dog's got really big, or is this the first time you own a dog, or the dog's got a new collar. There are a million things you can do to ask about the dog. I guarantee if you open that door, in other words, the door that they can then come through and say, oh, let me tell you about little Pookie, or whatever the dog's name is, then you're in there. So I challenge you, take up connotations, take up the opportunity to have a back and forth with someone who is a stranger or a near stranger. Don't tie up the barista at the coffee shop or the pharmacist with, a whole back and forth. They don't have the time. But standing in line behind someone at a grocery store, seeing someone on the same platform at the same station every morning, those are the opportunities to do it. Challenge yourself. If you can do it with someone that you don't know, when you move into big gatherings and there are lots of someones you don't know, you'll have already built up that stamina, that muscle memory. I guarantee this works. It's doable, and I know you're going to put it into practice. As always, please like and subscribe and leave your comments so I know what we need to talk about here. I'll see you next week, because as always, the time to speak up is now.
All eyes on me. I shine with